Ferrari is developing upgrades. Mercedes is bringing new parts. But Red Bull might not need any of that. Because what they've just discovered could give them a massive advantage before Suzuka. And almost nobody noticed it. After 2 races, the data looks confusing. Australia showed insane peak performance. China looked like a complete step backwards. But here's the key detail. The car didn't lose speed. It lost control. And that's a completely different problem. Because speed is hard to find. Control can be fixed. And Red Bull is already fixing it. Behind closed doors. No visible upgrades. No major announcements. Nothing the cameras can catch. But internally, something has changed. Energy management. The one system that now controls half the car. And here's where things get serious. If Red Bull solves this before Suzuka, Ferrari and Mercedes cannot copy it in time. They cannot react. And by the time they understand what's happening, Red Bull could already be gone. Australia gave them the clue. China confirmed the pattern. But neither race showed the real intention behind it. Because what looked like problems were actually signals. Signals of a car operating in a completely different window. In Australia, the RB22 didn't behave like a stable front-runner. It behaved like something unpredictable. Starting from the back. Then suddenly finding pace that didn't match its position. Overtaking cars that, on paper, should have been faster. Even setting the fastest lap. That's not normal progression. That's a spike. A peak that appears when everything aligns perfectly. But then it disappears. And that's exactly what Red Bull has been dealing with. Not a lack of performance. A lack of consistency in accessing that performance. And here's where it becomes critical. Because right after showing that peak, the car lost power at the start. Dropped positions instantly. Struggled to deploy energy at the most important moment. That's not just a bad launch. That's a system failing under pressure. But then China exposed something even bigger. Because the team tried to fix it. Setup changes. Balance adjustments. Mechanical tweaks. And nothing worked. No response. No improvement. And when a Formula One car stops responding to changes, that means the limitation is not external. It's internal. Built into how the car works. And suddenly, everything connects. The pour starts. The overheating issues. The lack of balance. They are not separate problems. They are symptoms of the same thing. A system pushed too far. Too aggressive. Too optimized. Operating right at the edge. And this is where Red Bull did something very few teams would risk. They didn't build a comfortable car. They built a precise one. A car that only delivers performance when every single variable is perfectly aligned. Energy deployment. Thermal control. Aerodynamic load. All synchronized. And when that synchronization breaks, the performance disappears instantly. But here's the part that changes everything. If they restore that synchronization, if they regain control over when and how that performance appears, this car doesn't just improve. It unlocks. Because the speed is already there. We've already seen it. Briefly. In flashes. And that means Red Bull is not chasing lap time. They are chasing access to lap time. And that is a much faster problem to solve. Because they don't need to redesign the car. They need to understand it. Control it. Stabilize it. And if they achieve that before Suzuka, then what looked like inconsistency in the first 2 races was never a weakness. It was the early stage of something much more dangerous. But to understand why this is so dangerous for Ferrari and Mercedes, you have to look at what Red Bull actually built. Because this is not just a fast car with a few issues. This is a completely different philosophy. For the first time, Red Bull is not just designing a chassis. They are controlling the entire system. Engine, energy, cooling, aerodynamics, all developed together. Under one structure. Under one idea. And that idea is simple, but extreme. Maximum integration. Everything working as one. And that sounds like an advantage. Until you realize what it really means. Because when everything is connected, you cannot fix one problem without affecting everything else. That's why the car looked so difficult in China. That's why changes made no difference. Because they weren't adjusting parts. They were trying to adjust a system. And systems don't respond like components. They either work, or they don't. But here's the key detail most people missed. The concept itself is not failing. It's incomplete. Because all the weaknesses we've seen, cooling issues, energy drops, unstable balance, they all point to one thing. Control is not fully optimized yet. Not the design. The control. And that changes the entire picture. Because improving design takes time. Months. Sometimes years. But improving control, that can happen much faster. Software updates. Energy mapping. Thermal management adjustments. Small changes, with massive impact. And this is exactly where Red Bull is focusing right now. Not bringing visible upgrades. Not changing the external shape of the car. But refining how everything works together internally. And that's why other teams are in a difficult position. Because Ferrari and Mercedes are reacting to what they can see. Aerodynamics, grip, balance. But Red Bull's biggest gains are happening where no one can see them. Inside the system. Inside the behavior of the car. And that is almost impossible to copy quickly. Because even if you understand it, you cannot replicate it without redesigning your entire concept. And no team can do that between races. But here's where it becomes even more critical. Because Suzuka is not just another circuit. It's a test. One of the most demanding tests of the entire season. High-speed corners. Constant load. No long breaks. The car is always under pressure. Especially the energy system. Especially the cooling. And that means one thing. If Red Bull has not fixed their control issues, Suzuka will expose everything. But if they have, then Suzuka becomes the perfect stage. Because this track rewards precision. Rewards stability. Rewards cars that can operate at the limit, lap after lap. And that is exactly what Red Bull is trying to unlock. Not more speed. Usable speed. Sustainable performance. And if they achieve that here, then the advantage is not just real. It's immediate. Because Ferrari and Mercedes will still be developing visible upgrades. Still chasing balance. Still adjusting setups. While Red Bull has already solved the core of their car. And once that core is stable, everything else becomes easier. And that's why this next race changes everything. Because for the first time this season, we are not going to see potential. We are going to see the truth. Either this concept works, or it doesn't. Either Red Bull takes control of the season, or they fall behind. But if they get it right, then what looked like a weakness in the first two races will turn out to be the biggest advantage on the grid. And now, we reach the part that changes everything. Because there is one final detail that connects all of this. One piece of evidence that explains why Red Bull might already be ahead, without anyone realizing it. Energy at zero. That moment when the battery is completely depleted. Most teams avoid it. They design their systems to never reach that point. Because when the battery hits zero, you lose performance. You lose control. You become vulnerable. But Red Bull is doing something very different. They are not avoiding zero. They are operating around it. Right on the edge. And that is extremely risky. But also extremely powerful. Because if you can control exactly when your battery drops, and more importantly, how quickly it recovers, you can extract maximum performance at the exact moments you need it. Not safely. Not conservatively. Precisely. And that's the advantage. Because while Ferrari and Mercedes are protecting their systems, Red Bull is exploiting theirs. Pushing harder. Deploying more energy. Accepting the risk in exchange for higher peaks. And we've already seen what those peaks look like. Australia proved it. The speed is there. The car can be the fastest on track. But only for short windows. Only when everything aligns. And that's what they are fixing right now. Not the speed. The duration of that speed. Because if they extend those windows, even by a few seconds per lap, that's enough. Enough to control races. Enough to dominate stints. Enough to make the difference between fighting and leading. But here's where the new evidence becomes critical. Red Bull is already working on solutions for this exact issue. Not just internally. Externally. Talking to the FIA. Looking for approval to adjust how energy is handled at race starts. Because starting with zero battery is not just inefficient. It's unpredictable. And if they can start with a more controlled energy state, they remove one of their biggest weaknesses instantly. Better launches. Better positioning into turn 1. More control over the entire race from the very beginning. And that alone changes everything. But here's the part Ferrari and Mercedes cannot react to. This is not a visible upgrade. This is not something you can see in data immediately. This is behavioral. System level. Hidden inside how the car operates. And that means by the time rivals notice the difference, it's already too late. Because they cannot copy it between races. They cannot redesign their energy systems overnight. They cannot suddenly operate at the same level of risk. And that's the real advantage. Not just performance. Not just innovation. Timing. Red Bull is closer to mastering their concept than anyone else is to understanding it. And Suzuka is where that gap could open. Because this track does not forgive instability. It demands precision. It demands consistency. Lap after lap. Corner after corner. And if Red Bull has solved their energy control, then for the first time this season, we won't see flashes of speed. We will see sustained dominance. And that's when everything clicks. The aggressive packaging, the extreme integration, the risky energy strategy, all of it finally working together. And when that happens, there is nothing left to fix, only performance to extract. And the most dangerous part is this: by the time Ferrari and Mercedes realize what Red Bull has unlocked, they won't be asking how to stop them. They'll be asking how they missed it. And the real question is no longer whether Red Bull has an advantage. The real question is, did they just solve the hardest problem in Formula One before anyone else even understood it?